Welcome back to Bible Bites. I'm Gabe. Thank you for joining. Today we're going to talk about John chapter 5. Now, consistent with the other chapters in the book of John, which we've been covering recently, each particular chapter breaks down into basically two different stories. In this case, the theme that underlies the two stories in John chapter 5 are the concept of that God is always working, even when you don't see him, even when he's in the background, and sometimes when you don't even know it or ask for it. The first story talking about a man who is, as the book describes it, has been lame, which means he's crippled or disabled in some way, and he needs healing and he wants healing, and Jesus addresses that situation. The second one talks about how that healing creates a bit of a stir in the Jewish leadership, and how Jesus uses the concept of God is always working to address that concern, and then also use that as justification to explain who he really is on earth. So let's jump right in. The first story is about a man who is at what's called Bethesda, and it's a pool that it's thought to be or contain healing waters, and it is in the town of Jerusalem. And this man has been lame or disabled for 38 years. The book doesn't really explain exactly how or why he's lame, but it appears to be something where he can't really move or get around much. So it's either a problem with his one leg or both legs, or maybe he's paralyzed. It's not quite clear, and the book never really gives you that detail. And he's been laying by the pool for 38 years, and he's been unable to get in the pool because either people will jump ahead of him in line to get to the pool, or nobody will help him. But regardless of the reason why, he just can't get in there. So Jesus is now in Jerusalem after the previous chapter. He goes to the pool to see what's up. He sees all these disabled people. That in some cases they're blind, some cases they have diseases, in some cases, yeah, they're crippled or don't have control of their limbs. And he sees this man who's been there for 38 years, and he says, "What's your deal?" He says, "Well, I'm lame and I can't get in the pool. Nobody will help me. And every time I try to crawl in there myself, somebody pushes ahead of me and I just can't get in there." And Jesus asks a very interesting question. He says, "Do you want to be healed?" And the man's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I've been trying to get in the pool. Of course I want to be healed. I just can't get there." And Jesus says, "Pick up your mat, get up and walk. You're healed. Go on and get out of here." And he was healed. He just got up and walked, and off he went. And this man had no idea who Jesus was, didn't know that he was supposed to ask him or pray to him for or worship him in any capacity. He just knows that this man showed up and healed him just out of the blue. And then later, that man finds out through chatter or gossip or whatever you will from the people in the town. They're like, "Hey, that's Jesus. That's the Messiah. So you got touched by the real deal." And he's like, "Oh, great. This is fantastic." And then he goes back to Jesus and says, "Thank you for healing me. I really appreciate it. I love you and all. And I'm here for you. And what do you want?" And he says, "You're fine. You're healed. Now go live your life. Don't sin, or don't sin anymore, because we'll never not be sinners. But don't sin anymore, because something bad might come upon you that might be even worse. Be grateful for the gift you've been given," is what Jesus is really saying, "and live a good life." So why is that important? Because what's happening is you have a man who received the blessing of Jesus to be healed, a miracle, but he didn't even know who Jesus was. He had no idea that he was Messiah. He didn't know that if he prayed for him or asked for healing, that he would get it. So in other words, now Jesus bestows a miracle upon a person where faith wasn't an issue, or faith wasn't required or a prerequisite. So it's an example of Jesus as the Son of God always working in the background, even when we don't know it, even when we have no idea what's going on. So there's that theme there. So that the first story now transitions into the second story. The Jewish leadership gets wind of this healing now, and this healing takes place on the Sabbath, which is supposed to be a day of no work. Not supposed to be doing any work of any kind, nothing of constructive output or development of any sort. You're supposed to rest, and that's it. Nothing. And they get wind of, "Oh, he's going around to the pool and he's healing people. He's doing all kinds of things on the Sabbath when he should be resting. He's violating our laws. So what's your story?" And so they go confront him, and now they're enraged by this. It's like, "You're supposed to be a teacher, or maybe even a rabbi, and maybe even more than that from what we're hearing from the rumors and the whispers, and yet you're working on the Sabbath, which is a violation of our law." And that gets them enraged and starts setting the stage for them potentially wanting to kill him, or at least arrest him and do terrible things to him. And then what happens is Jesus says, he takes that accusation, And he says, don't you understand that even on the Sabbath, God is still moving? Things are still happening. The universe doesn't stop on the Sabbath just because you say so. Yes, in the original book of Genesis, God rested on the seventh day. But that doesn't mean when people are hurting and they need help that you don't stop to help them. That's ridiculous. And God is always working in the background, whether you believe it or not. And then he uses that to launch into effectively a sermon here, where he uses that understanding to justify how now he can publicly and comfortably proclaim that he is the Son of God, that he is the Messiah. And then they doubt him. They try to push back on him to say, you're just a guy and maybe you healed and that's a neat trick, but you're not the Son of God. It's like, no, 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 you must understand. I am representing God here. And this is an exact proof of that because I'm working in the background, just like God works in the background sometimes. I'm healing the sick, even against the Sabbath, which is what God is doing. And I am able to discern that you're telling the truth or you're lying or you understand or not, or you have wisdom or ignorance. Because I am the Son of God, I am with him and I am of him and I am him. And he goes through by listing out some of the things that they're doing by saying, if I just told you I was the Son of God, you wouldn't believe me. Why? Because you follow the Old Testament, which are the teachings of Moses and Abraham and what have you. But here I am exactly demonstrating the prophecies of those men, the teachings of the Messiah to come, and I'm doing it right here in front of your face, and you're not believing it, which means even though you understand the scriptures, you don't really believe them. So even if I told you, you wouldn't believe it. And if I gave you, so now that I'm even showing you evidence of this, you still don't believe it. So if somebody's going to ask, should I believe these Jewish leaders who are ignorant of the things that they have learned, or the one that's actually living out the prophecy of the return of the Messiah, which is more important? Obviously, Jesus right there performing miracles, that's the one that you're going to follow. And he said, even then, I'll give you another example, a recent example, one that's happening right now, John the Baptist. Everyone is a fan of, well, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people are a fan of John the Baptist. And they believe that he is a herald and is prophesying the return of the Messiah. And everybody's going to him for baptisms. Everybody's listening to him preach. Everybody is seeking him out. He's got kind of a fan base going, John the Baptist. And John the Baptist even looked at me and pointed at me. This is Jesus speaking and says, he's the one I've been waiting for. He's the one I've been warning you. Well, warning is not the right word, but he's the one I've been foretelling is going to come. I've been telling you, I'm not the Messiah. John the Baptist is saying this. I'm not the Messiah. I'm here to announce the arrival of the one who is. And he points at Jesus and says, that's the guy. So yet you will follow that John the Baptist. He's talking to Jesus, not talking to the Jewish leadership. He says, you'll follow John the Baptist. You'll listen to what he says. You'll lift him up and you'll praise him for being a herald, a good teacher, somebody who cares about people and loves people and is working on behalf of God. Yet even when John the Baptist points to me and says, I am the Messiah, you don't believe it. Now you're angry with me because you don't believe it. So what you're doing, Jewish leadership, is you're deep into the books, you're deep into the prophecies, and you're deep into the teachers and the rabbis who are extolling how important it is to believe in God and the Messiah is coming. But yet when they all point to me and I'm right here in front of you and I'm doing the things that God would have done, you're mad about it. What that really shows is you don't believe. You really don't have that faith. But it doesn't matter because God is working in the background. I'm showing it to you by healing this man, and then I'm teaching you about it because I'm explaining to you how God works. And you can see the evidence all around you in how the world works. And so the undercurrent of the entire chapter is exactly that, is God works in the background. And then Jesus uses that information first to show it by healing a man who didn't even have faith and understanding in who Jesus was, but he did it anyway because it was a good demonstration of his power and who he was as the Messiah. And then when the Jews started to turn on him because he was healing on the Sabbath day, he used that to create a platform, or I should say defense, if you want to look at it from a legal courtroom drama perspective, of showing the Jewish leadership that they really weren't on God's side on this, that they may have been academically smart and they may have known the prophecies, but when the evidence is presented to them right to their face, they still don't believe, which means they had all the smarts, but none of the faith, none of the belief. And from that perspective, you're pretty much useless. He didn't say it in those terms, but I'm paraphrasing, but that's pretty much it. So there we are, John chapter 5. I want you to read this book. Give me your insights. I want to know, after you've read it, what do you think about it? If you see up on the screen, I've got up a Bible Gateway. So if you don't have a Bible, go to Bible Gateway. You can just look up John chapter 5. It's all right there. You're going to know multiple translations. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. If you need help, if you need prayer requests or help of any kind, or if you'd rather get a physical Bible and you don't know where to go, especially if there are resources online, but you still want a physical Bible, there's an email address down in the description of the video. Send us an email. We'll be happy to get back to you and help you out. But please let me know what you think about John chapter 5 and what it says to you and what God is trying to say to you through this book. So thank you very much. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Have a great day. I want good things for you. God bless, and I'll talk to you soon.